Welcome everyone. You're here for the Zoom Master training for the online contest. Now, this is a bit of a different year. I wouldn't say it's all that different from the contest, except we all have to do it virtually. So tonight I'm going to go through the differences between a virtual contest and a regular in-person contest. I'm going to talk about what your role as Zoom Master encompasses. What is the Zoom Master? What do you do? I'm going to talk about the initial preparation that you need to do well before the contest, the people you need to assign to roles, and the people that you need to meet with before the meeting, before your dry run even. I'm going to talk about the contest briefing and dry run as well. And then I'm going to talk about what you need to do the night of the contest, right before the contest begins, and what you're going to be doing during the contest as Zoom Master. And then we'll leave it open to a few questions. So what is the difference with an in-person contest? Well, for one, you have to be staring at a camera instead of at faces. So that's a little bit different. But it's the same rule book that you're used to. So get yourself familiar with the speech contest rule book. That has not changed, other than the fact that you can do a presentation virtually than in person. Everything else remains the same. So if you're conducting a contest, make sure you read the rule book and you're very familiar with the rules. Technology can be your friend or enemy. It can and will fail. This even happened to me tonight. I was kicked out of the meeting about 10 minutes ago. And thankfully, Dotun was there as a co-Zoom Master tonight to admit me back in the meeting and assign me to co-hosting capabilities. Make sure you have a backup. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but that is very important that any role you take on in your virtual contest, make sure you have someone who can step in to fulfill the role if you happen to lose your internet connection or your computer goes down. Test everything before the contest. Test it and test it and test it. Again, you don't know what might fail and what might change. Zoom is notorious for doing updates on a weekly basis. And if an update happens and a button that you're looking for moves, you need to know that. You need to know where it is. Essentially, you're going to be the technology guru for the meeting. So you need to know what you're doing. Your role as the Zoom Master, as I've touched on, is basically as the virtual sergeant at arms. You're going to be the gatekeeper to the meeting to admit people into the correct rooms. You're also going to be there to help with technology issues, which will happen. And you help the contest chair run the meeting as smoothly as possible. You're the first point of contact to all members. And you're able to enable and disable features like chat, like audio, like video. This is important during a virtual meeting because you don't want disruptions for the speakers throughout. One of the first things I would suggest you do as Zoom Master is to get familiar with Zoom. If you don't already have it, download it. It's free to download. And set up a virtual chat with a friend of yours just to try it out. Try some of the features. Hold some test meetings. Try out different backgrounds. If you have access to the licensed version of Zoom, which you can through the district if necessary, try out breakout rooms. Try admitting members to the meeting, renaming and muting participants, all of the features. Now, why Zoom? Why not Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, other platforms you're probably familiar with? We suggest you use Zoom right from your club level contests because this is the one that Toastmasters is going to be using going up to the district level. And this is the one we're familiar with and have written the guides for. It's also the one we can help you with. If you have questions, you can come to me and I can help you with Zoom. If you're using a different platform, you might run into issues and we might not be able to assist you with it. But more than anything, it's just to get your participants familiar with the Zoom platform. So when they advance through the levels, which I'm hoping they will, they'll be familiar with the Zoom environment and it won't be something new to them, giving them a bit of an advantage down the road. Now, you need to choose your co-Zoom Master. This is essential because you need someone who can step in at a moment's notice and take over the meeting if something fails, if you're kicked out of the meeting, if your computer crashes all of a sudden and you're not able to connect with everyone in the meeting. You need someone there to take over. They're going to act as your equal, as your mirror throughout the meeting. They will know the script, they will know exactly the rules, and if they need to, they can step in and take over. You'll also assign co-hosts for the meeting, and which will often be the contest chair, the Toastmaster, and the chief judge at the minimum. That way, if, God forbid, both you and the co-Zoom master are kicked off, someone else can take over and continue the meeting as smoothly as can be. The other thing you need to do as Zoom master well before the meeting is to develop a script. This also helps with your co-Zoom master needing to take over. They can take over and read the script right where you left off. And we might not even notice that you've been bumped off the meeting because the co-Zoom master will just take over so smoothly. Go over that Zoom script and initial draft, or the initial draft of the Zoom script with your co-Zoom master. And then brief your co-Zoom master on his or her role during the speech contest. Make sure that they know everything that needs to go on in that meeting. The next thing you need to do as the Zoom master is to schedule your contest briefing and dry run. This will be done in conjunction with the contest chair and the chief judge. Very, very important. You'll see an example of a dry run later on, but the idea is for you to have a fake contest to try and work out the kinks, get the problems sorted out beforehand. So not when you're having the actual contest, but at this dry run. It also gives the judge the opportunity to go over the rules with the contestants. The contest chair could potentially pick the speaking order if it's happening right before, within a couple of days of your contest. But ultimately, the goal is to work out any problems that you may have, fix any audio issues, video issues, set the speaking area for your contestants. And if people are having trouble renaming themselves or joining different rooms in Zoom, you make sure and sort out those issues in your dry run. You also get a chance to test out your script. Maybe there's some changes that need to happen to it, so try it out at the dry run. This also gives you a chance to test out some of the features in Zoom that maybe you haven't had a chance to use. You're going to be using a licensed version of Zoom for the contest. So at this point, you can try the breakout rooms. And we'll talk more about breakout rooms later on, but it's good to get familiar with them. How do you assign people to breakout rooms, and how do you move them to the breakout rooms when necessary? This gives you a chance to assist all the contestants with technology issues and test out their skills with Zoom. It allows you to test out muting and unmuting contestants, moving officials into and out of breakout rooms, having officials leave the breakout room and return to the main room when they're counting the ballots, say. And it allows you to test out the speaker's functionality. If they need to share their desktop, make sure that that's functioning properly for them. So after you've done your dry run, you should be a pro at this point. You're all ready for the contest. Now, what do you do when it comes to contest day? Arrive early. And I mean early. You want to get your breakout room set up. You want to make sure you're there before any of the participants show up. And there's something else very important that you need to keep in mind when you arrive at the meeting. Do not allow any of the judges, actually do not allow any of the contestants to enter the meeting until all of your judges have arrived and all of your judges have renamed themselves to become anonymous. This is very important because judges have to remain anonymous for the contest, and you don't want the judges there with their name and their picture or their video displayed to the contestants as they're coming into the room. So do not admit anyone to the room until all of your judges have come in and all of your judges have been renamed to Judge 1, Judge 2, with their pictures and videos turned off so that there's no way the contestants can see who they are. I would suggest at least a half an hour before the contest, maybe 45 minutes to an hour is a good idea. This way it allows you to have a discussion with the chief judge beforehand, the contest chair. If there's any changes that need to be made, you can be brought up to snuff with all of those. This is also the time you can set up all the Zoom rules for the meeting. Are you going to disable the chats, which I strongly recommend? Are you going to mute all the participants? Are you going to turn off everyone's videos? Are you going to allow co-hosts or allow hosts and co-hosts to add co-hosts? Are you going to use a waiting room? You set up all this beforehand, so everything just goes smoothly. As the contestants and the audience are arriving at the contest, they just come in the same way they would in a live contest, smoothly, right to their virtual seats, and the contest chair is ready to begin right on time. I would also turn off the sound notification when someone enters or leaves. This can be distracting for the speaker. Disable the screen sharing except for hosts and co-hosts. And if one of the speakers needs to have screen sharing, then you can enable them as a co-host to do that. I would also disable anyone choosing a breakout room, because at the end of the meeting, you're going to have to move people to a breakout room in an anonymous way, and you don't want just anyone able to enter the breakout rooms on their own. Disable the whiteboard, the remote control, disable recording. Allow participants to rename themselves, but hide profile pictures and hide non-video participants. This is very important as it reduces the number of blank boxes on the screen during the contest and reduces the internet load significantly. You can also set up breakout rooms as they will be needed for judges or for table topics contestants. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention about turning off the non-video participants is, as a speaker, if the only video participants left are the speaker and the timers, that's all they're going to see on the screen. There's no need to pin at that point. All they have to do is hide non-video participants, and the only ones they'll see are the timers and the speaker, because they're the only ones who should have their video on at that point. One tip is to ask all the judges, officials, and participants to log out of their Zoom accounts. So we've all got well, maybe not all of us, but many of us have Zoom, and we probably have an account, basic or otherwise. When we log into Zoom, it automatically takes your name from your account and doesn't give you the option to rename you enter a meeting without going into your settings. If you simply log out of your Zoom account and join a meeting as a guest, the first thing it will do is pop up and ask you to rename yourself. This is one way you can get the judges to rename before they appear in the meeting, and then you don't have this confusion later on when you're trying to rename them before the contestants show up. During the contest, the Zoom master and co-Zoom master will monitor the waiting room and admit new attendees. The co-Zoom master should always be in the room. There should be a Zoom master in at least both rooms. So if you do have a main room and a breakout room, one Zoom master should be in one and the Zoom master should be in the other. You should always have a Zoom master in each room. In adherence to the speech contest rulebook, ensure that audience members are not admitted to the Zoom meeting during a contestant's speech. The Zoom master and co-hosts keep everyone muted unless they have a speaking role at that moment. This avoids the Zoom visual takeover hijacking that can happen when an attendee is using speaker view. Keep the number of people on the screen to as few as possible. Again, I had mentioned before, hide the non-video participants. This makes it easier for the speakers to see the timer, and it can also assist attendees with low internet bandwidth to experience less interruptions. Now, before I go to questions, I'd like to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask Dotun so we can show you some of these features that we talked about and how to enable and disable them. I can send the slides out afterwards, yes. So if you can go to the security settings, Dotun, that's the first place that a Zoom master can go to enable or disable some of the settings for participants.
So I click on that.
And here's where you can hide profile pictures, which is important for the judges. So I would hide profile pictures for everyone. You can allow participants to share a screen or disable the ability to share screens. You can disable chat. I think this is important during a speech contest because you don't want that notification popping up on your screen in the middle of a speech. Oh, there's a chat message. It's happened to me and it can be very distracting, as I'm sure many of you know. You want to allow participants to rename themselves, specifically for the judges and the other officials that are going to be participating in the contest. You don't want to allow participants to unmute themselves. You want to leave that as the Zoom master's role, just to make sure that nobody accidentally unmutes themselves in the middle of a speech. And I would say the video, leave that enabled, but ask people to disable their video once they come in and they're attendees in the speech contest.
I wanted to ask about that security icon. Is that only if you have a paid version? I mean, I'm currently on my own free version, I guess. I don't see that as a choice on my screen. Or is it only if
it's only if you are the host.
Right, okay.
That's
then.
right. So if you're the host and you've added co-hosts, each of them will have the ability to change the security settings during the meeting. So when you are chairing your contest, make sure that the host at least has set up with a, well, actually any Zoom version will work for the security settings, but the breakout rooms, you need a premium version of Zoom to use those.
The next thing we would like to demonstrate here is how you can use the security in meeting options. This is a new feature that Zoom has added following the Zoom bombing incidences when COVID hit last year. But security has really been tightened up around Zoom, and it's robust now, very robust. And the beauty of this feature is that as your session is going, you can actually alter the security depending on what the situation is or what the need is. Otherwise, best practice is that you should have a template, you should have a script that you've set up so that even before the meeting starts, you've baselined the settings for the contest session so it's secure. So things like you want to enable the waiting room, you want to ensure that nobody is able to join before you as the host or Zoom master arrives, and then ensuring that when people join, when participants join, they join with them being muted, they join with maybe their cameras off, or maybe their cameras on so you can see who's joining, and then they can turn it off. You joining as Zoom master, you want to join with your camera off. But once you have all that set and you want to alter the security settings while the session is on, you can then come to this button and do that. A typical situation would be if you started off the meeting, you're allowing interaction, people are able to chat back and forth and all that for the camaraderie to build up for the session. But once the session is started, especially like in a contest, you don't want to have participants being able to chat because everything comes up on the screen, and that can be distracting to the speaker. So what you want to do is to say, I've just clicked on that, they can no longer chat. So it keeps it clean. You also may want to say, you do not want to allow participants to share screen because they may just be playing around with things and it disrupts the experience of the contest. So that's why you want to make sure that it's properly set at each stage of the meeting. You leave it that they are able to rename themselves. You may also want to enable this once the contest is started, that participants are not able to unmute themselves. That is very useful because some people will just again play around and they come off mute and that throws the speaker off. And even you can do this once the contest starts, that participants are not able to start their video. And if you have any disruptive participants, you can just remove the participants nicely. So you can see that. Enable waiting room. This is going to be important. Hide profile pictures will be a setting that you want to have on because you want to have judges anonymous. So when they come into the session, it hides their pictures, because when the camera goes off and the profile pictures are not hidden, they could actually see who judge one is, and you don't want that. So that's why that needs to be on. The other thing you may want to consider, even though it's a two-edged sword, is locking the meeting. So if you lock the meeting, that means that once the contest is started, no one else can join. But then what happens if someone gets bumped? They'll not be able to join the meeting. So that's why it's two-edged. So I would think you want to not you don't want to apply that setting for that very purpose. So just keep that as it is, because then when anyone gets bumped, they can join the meeting afterwards. So this is what the security features look like. For you to be able to have this, I think this will not come with the, I'm not sure, but I would think it doesn't come with the free version. You need to have a licensed version of Zoom to be able to do that, to do all this, and then logged on into your account, as I had to do for this district account. That is the demonstration of how you can use the security in meeting features to alter the experience of the Zoom session for the contest. Thank you.
Now, Dotun, can you show us how to bring up the backdrops for timer,
Okay.
please?
You click on the start window button there, and then you say choose virtual background, or you can say video settings. And then with the video settings, you go into
Background and filters, they moved it.
filters, and then you can change that here. So you will need to have the file ready, and I think that can be downloaded from the Toastmasters website for the background. So for example, if I want to change my background to green, I choose that. And then you also need to be sure that your PC, so that's the other thing, as part of testing, be sure that the laptop or your PC that you're going to be using as Zoom Master supports the use of background. It has to be at a particular spec in order for you to be able to do that. So you could see for this particular laptop that I'm using, the processor is i3. Anything below i5 in terms of Intel does not support virtual background. That's why I'm not able to activate that. But anything above that, it supports it. So if I plug it into my other laptop, I can actually change my virtual background. So you see, that's the page. So the requirements is that when comparing your processor with requirements, the generation of your processor can be determined by the blah. But that has to be at a particular level for it to support virtual backgrounds. But this page on Zoom takes you to the requirements that your laptop needs to be at in order for it to be able to support virtual backgrounds.
Thank you, Dotun. That's a good tip. And I mean, this is why you want to test these things out and have your dry run, because it gives you an opportunity to see if the person who's scheduled to be timer for your contest can or cannot do the backdrops. And at that point, you might want to assign someone else, or if they are able to get a different device that can do the virtual backgrounds. This is the time you want to sort it out before the contest.
But for the sake of what we're doing here, training Zoom Masters for the contest preparation, it's good to become familiar with some of these settings. So let's take the option of the video settings first. We click on that, and you can see that's me, and it's already activated because I had done that before. But let me switch that off. So backgrounds and filters, I say none. So this is my natural background now without anything. I now want to apply one of these preset backgrounds. What I can then do is I can choose that blur. It blurs out everything. Or I can choose this. Or you can add your own virtual background. So let's say add image, and this is where you as a timer, it becomes useful for you to be able to have something that you can use. D99 timer video files. So those are timer video files, and I downloaded this from one of the YouTube channels there. I actually like this one. When it's gonna run, that's what it will look like. 1 minute of silence. Let's do a search.
So, to create an effective role as a timer in a Toastmaster meeting. Let me show you how. The first thing to ensure is that your Zoom client is capable of displaying the virtual video background. You do that by clicking on the arrow next to the stop video icon and click Choose Virtual Background. If you are able to choose one of the video background like this, you are all set. Also, you could check by clicking on the plus sign here, and if you see the option Add Video, it means you are good to go. The next step is to download the video files. If you go to the video description and click on the link, you will be taken to this Google Drive where you find two folders called Resources and Video Files. Double click on the video files, and I have 4 video files that you can download. To download each file, you can right click on the file and click Download. Once you have downloaded all the 4 files, keep them in a separate folder. In this case, I have created them in one folder in my computer called Timer Video. To use the video files as your timer background, click on the arrow next to the stop video icon and say Choose Virtual Background. Click on the plus sign and click Add Video. Navigate to the folder where you have stored all the video files, and you can load them one by one. Let's say I want to load the table topics first. So I click on table topics, click open, and the video file is added here. Click the plus button, add the next video, let's say for the evaluation, then let's say the icebreaker, and finally the standard speech. Now we have all the 4 video files and we are all set. One final thing that I like to do when I'm taking up the timer role is to hide myself from the video, and I do that by using a black cloth that I can place on top of the camera. When I choose one of the video timers, let's say table topics, the audience will see only the timer and nothing else. When you want to start timing, click on Choose Virtual Background, and depending on which segment you are timing, let's say you want to start timing table topics. The moment the speaker starts speaking, click on the video and automatically you see that the timing starts. When it reaches 1 minute, the screen will automatically turn to green. At 1.5 minutes, the screen will change to yellow. And at 2 minutes, the screen will turn to red. When the speaker stops speaking, you can change the virtual background to some image. And I have a sample image in my resources that I have included in the link below. I have made it easy to identify which video is for which timer. As of now, there are only 4 timers for table topics, evaluation, icebreaker, and a normal 5 to 7 minute speech.
That's an example of how you could make use of the virtual background to come up with different timing approaches for the contest. We'll go back to this guy, video settings. Now let's change that. Add video, as we were told. Now those videos are available. So for the speech contest, which is going to be 5 to 7 minutes, we'll open that. So the 1 minute silence is there now. I used a green cloth, and so that's it. 1 minute silence. I remove the green cloth. I'm back. Hey! So you see, that's what I use. It's a green cloth. It also works. I do that. 1 minute silence. We're going to include the link for this video that was shot on YouTube in the supporting materials that we're compiling for the Q&A and the chat discussions for the bootcamp session. So you find the link there and you can watch the video at your own time. So 3 to 5 minutes timer. And then let's go back to download the one for, and then I would like to add the one for educational. So we have all this now. 1 minute table topics timer, the speech timer, the 3 to 5 minutes timer, evaluation timer, icebreaker, and then the educational. That's the standard library. The Toastmaster stoplight timer backgrounds. And this link will be included in the supporting document we are providing for the bootcamp session. So this takes you right to where you can download the file. So let's say file, and that will be in your my downloads or the download folder. This is a zip file, so you need to be able to extract those files to your desktop, and there are four of those, so I'll just copy them. If we just copy them and then go out of that zip file folder and go to, and then we can go back to our Zoom settings there, video settings, and so that is running, backgrounds and filters. Now we want to add those files, and those are images, not video, so you click on add image and we navigate to the browser, D99. So now that, if we select that, that will be the background that we have. So let's continue adding the other files. Yellow, and the red, and the neutral one. So with this, what we've created as our library is video files. If we decide to use that, I like that because it's running, and when the speaker pins that, they see, and it's not distracting, and it changes to the green, yellow, red colors at the appropriate times. That's why I like that. Otherwise, for the picture files, these 4 picture files, you will have to do that manually. You have to toggle through each one manually for it to be able to do its job like this. When it's green, you have to click on that, you have to click on that, you have to click on that. So because if I start my video now, You see that? So the speech has started. Start. When it's green, the speaker sees that. When it's yellow, they see that. When it's red, they see that. And when it's done, you reset. But for this guy, let's say it's the 5 to 7 minutes speech. I click on that. I cover my camera with a cloth, and then it just does it on its own. So that's the demonstration that we have for you timers. Hope you find this useful. Thank you.
Now, the one other thing I wanted to show everyone is how to do the slides with your image superimposed on it. Dotun, can you go to the share screen?
Yeah, share screen.
And go to advanced.
Advanced.
So this is a newer feature. Oh, see, it's grayed out for Dotun, but it might be because of the computer he's using or the version of Zoom that you have.
Now I'm going to demonstrate how you can actually run your PowerPoint, or you are sharing your screen and the PowerPoint is actually coming out up as a backdrop. What you want to do for that is, one, you want to be sure that your laptop supports virtual backgrounds. Once you are the right spec level, usually a processor of Intel i5 and above will be able to run a virtual background in Zoom. Then you come to the shared screen button here, click on that, and it comes up with this window, dialog window. But one tricky thing you want to be aware of is that there are different levels of sharing. So the default will be for your primary screen. When you click on that, it shares everything on the screen. And if you know that you'll be sharing sound, you want to click on the sharing sound button there and optimize for video clip. It's prepared for video editing. For the PowerPoint that we want to run as a virtual background, you go to advanced, and because this laptop supports virtual background, this is active. If you find it grayed out, that means your laptop device does not support virtual background. You need to upgrade your system. So you click on this, and say share, and then it goes to where it can find PowerPoint, or you browse to where you can find a PowerPoint slide. I can just do something like this, click on open. Now the PowerPoint is prepared, as you can see on screen. But if it's properly set up, my video should appear somewhere here, and you see that I'm just seeing the slide. So what I want to do is to click on the three dots there, say merge video and PowerPoint, and now I'm showing on the screen. So something to watch out for, that when you set the PowerPoint in this view and you can't find yourself, you can then do that. You can also hide self view so that you are properly set up that way. And in this view, you can actually blow yourself up a little bit, move yourself around. That's so cool. And the reason why I like this is that if you have other people in the session, it's better interaction as compared to the native way of sharing, where once you click on sharing, everything just disappears and it's like you're talking to yourself. But in this view, you will still be able to see other participants, and the way you do that is you click on so you can see that participant now, and that's how you see every other person in the session, and it's better interaction. It's better interaction, and you can also see yourself. And you just advance the slide as you would. It's a VUCA world. So that's how you enable that.
Mark, I have a
Yes.
question about speakers using sharing their desktops. Visual aids were not allowed in previous rule books. I'm just wondering what what it is now, because I don't think speakers can use a PowerPoint in their background. That they can have a prop if they're holding it in their hands, but I don't think they can use technology as a prop.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
One comment I'll make is that Rena actually had pointed out that backdrops are allowed, but they are considered a prop. You have to declare them to the contest chair. I don't know about sharing a PowerPoint presentation. I would think that would not be a good thing because it would kind of not present you in the best light. But it's covered in the manual that's called Best Practices. It's not in the rule book. It's in the Best Practices for Online Contests. Search for that at Toastmasters.
Thank you, Glenn. Yes, I wouldn't suggest using virtual backdrops for a speaker presentation, but I guess if you wanted to show some things before the contest begins as the Zoom master, you could. If you wanted to display, say, the timer backdrops, or have the timer show the timer backdrops to the speakers before the contest begins, they could do that as a virtual background. But it's true, using a virtual background as a speaker, your hands can get lost, your gestures can get lost. If you're holding up a prop, they can disappear into the backdrop, and your face can disappear, which isn't ideal in a speech. Does anyone else have any questions?
Just wanted to clarify, when it comes to stuff disappearing, that's only if you don't have a green screen.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you.
I asked about making others co-host, Mark. I don't know whether you're going to cover that or.
Oh, yes. I'll get, once Dotun comes back on. I don't have the ability as a co-host to share my screen and let you guys see the settings in Zoom. So that's why we had to go to Dotun's screen to allow him to show that. If you're wondering why we're doing it in such a strange way.
So you can't be made the host to be allowed to share your screen?
The problem is you have to be, that particular setting is enabled in the account holder, and this is the district account. So Dotun is logged in to this district account and I'm not. So I can share my screen, but I can't share my screen and allow you to see the Zoom buttons at the same time. It's an odd feature that it took a bit of work to figure out how to do it, but it's only within the account holder's settings that you can change it and allow that view.
Okay.
So that's why he's doing it. But I'll show you how to do that as well, actually, if you ever need to show anyone how to do stuff in Zoom.
The next thing we want to do is to be able to demonstrate how you can add co-hosts. How do you want to add co-hosts to help you as a Zoom master to divide the workload. Because when you get into the back end room, when this session is going on, there's a lot going on, and you have to be able to think on your feet, you have to be agile, you have to be fluid. That's why you need to have support. You need to have at least one other person supporting you in your Zoom master role. Otherwise, preferably, you're even looking at two, and then you can spread the duties of the Zoom master, because one of those people can actually be the one managing the in-meeting experience, watching the chat window, what's going on, anyone coming off mute, you quickly mute them, other things like what is being posted in the chat window, so that you can moderate that and bring that to the attention of whoever has the floor. Another has to do with you as the main Zoom master person in the back end, managing all the controls so that the meeting is smooth. The transitions are seamless. That's why you want to take that backstage, and then maybe one other person doing some other administrative type things, like for example at the beginning of the meeting, admitting people into the meeting area, taking care of things like recording the session and related tasks. So dividing the work is very essential, and I think it should be part of your script, your playbook, I will call it, so that you are well organized. So for you to be able to add other people to become co-hosts, then the first thing you want to do is, again, ensure that you are logged on into your account. Ensure that you are logged on into your Zoom account. And the way you would get your Zoom account is zoom.us. You click on that, and then when you get there, you will have where it says that you should sign in. I'm already signed on, so that's why you see it that way. And I'm just going to close that, bring up so close that. So the next thing you want to do is to go to settings, and if your account is new, you will really need to spend some time setting it up properly, so that you have baselined the security of your Zoom sessions. So the things that you want to have as baseline is to ensure that the waiting room is enabled, that everyone goes into the waiting room, that you require passcode when scheduling new meetings. And Zoom turns some of these things on by default, but because this has already been modified, I can't recall what was set as the default, so that's why I'm calling this out. So do not be surprised if some of these that I'm calling out is already set for you. And the way you know whether it's already been set for you is that the blue, so if I do that, that means it's off, your settings have been updated. When I do that, that means it's on, it's applied. Require a passcode for instant meetings, a webinar passcode if you have a webinar account. Those are the critical ones. And then scheduling a meeting, it's always good to have the host video off, so that when you join, you don't want to create pleasant surprises. It's good to have participants video on so that you can see who's joining the meeting when you admit them in. And then the audio type, you could give people the flexibility to join by phone and also through their PC. I think that those are one of the settings that are turned on by default. Then for the chat, that you allow meet participants to send a message visible to all participants. You do that. Sometimes you could say you want to prevent participants from saving chat depending on the confidentiality of the session. Otherwise, you don't need to turn it on. You can also say that you want to allow meeting participants to send private chats to each other. And then the auto-saving chat is very important. When your meeting is ended, the chats are automatically saved. This is also important, so sound notification when someone joins or leaves. You have that on, but in order not to distract, I would say play sound for host and co-host only. And then when someone joins by phone, ask them to record their voice to use as a notification. You may want to allow file transfers during the meeting. You will need to enable this if you want to use meeting polls. This is one feature that is not enabled by default. And then the other one which brought us here in the first place is co-host. This is also not enabled by default. So you will need to turn that on. And this is what you see if your account is new. So you need to turn it on and then it becomes blue. If you have a webinar account, you also need to turn on the webinar polls. And then this feature as well shows Zoom windows during screen share. It's important if you are doing demonstration. So those are the key settings that you need to turn on properly in your backend here. And then once that is done, it carries through into your live session. So with that now being done, you should be able to go back into your meeting area and be able to add another person as a co-host. So like for example, Judge 1 is still connected. I mouse over Judge 1, I say more, make co-host. It says, do you want to make Judge 1 the co-host of this meeting? You say yes. And he will receive, Judge 1 will receive that notification that they've now been made a co-host, and they can then support you in your Zoom Master task. So that's how you would enable co-host feature. You can see that now in the participants window, that Judge 1 is now a co-host, and they're able to support you in creating breakout rooms. They will have the security feature clicked on as well, so they can take the aspect of their task of managing the security, the in-meeting security features. They'll be able to record, they'll be able to share their screen, and so many other things that come with their role as a co-host. And that brings us to the end of the demonstration of how to assign a participant as a co-host in Zoom. To recap again, you need to log on to your Zoom account, go through the settings, click on the settings tab, and you scroll down, work your way down, enable the right features like enabling, if it's a new account, make sure that the waiting room is enabled, make sure that people can dial in by phone and through their laptop. You want to give people the opportunity to chat, and as you work your way down like that, you get to the one that says co-host. If you want to have people be able to use the polling if you want to be able to do the polling, you have to enable that. Even breakout rooms is another one that you'll have to go into the backend setting and enable, because it's not turned on when you have a new account. So the tip here is that if you find anything missing here and while you are logged onto your Zoom account, it is because it has not been enabled in the back end. You need to go to the web browser, into the settings, and enable it there, and then you will find the feature pop up or flow through or become active in the main Zoom session. Hope you find this useful and wish you the best in your role as a Zoom master for the Spring Online Contest. Back to you, Mark, with the rest of the presentation.
Just to know, I think we can have only one host, right, per meeting? And
you can have one host, but many co-hosts. That's correct.
So, but I think breakout room, when the request comes from breakout room for the ask for help, only host gets. So that's what I noticed when I was testing out.
Only the host gets the message if you're sending a message. That's good to know. I think if the co-host is put in the meeting, I think in the breakout room with you, you should be able to message them. And then that's where we wanted to have a Zoom co-host in whatever additional rooms you create. If you create a breakout room, there needs to be a Zoom master in there as well.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, same thing. I have the question: how do the co-host get the Zoom master gets the message?
So when you assign co-host to the co-Zoom master, they have to be assigned to the breakout room, and then the people in the breakout room can communicate with the co-host who's in that breakout room. They may also be able to send a message to the host that's not in that breakout room, but if you want to communicate with the co-host, they have to be in that breakout room with you. And we'll show you how to do that as well. We'll show you how to assign co-hosts and breakout rooms, and then assign people to breakout rooms. At the end of the meeting, at the end of the contest, you'll want to assign your judges and ballot counters and timers to a breakout room so that they can have their discussion away from the other attendees and contestants to discuss the ballot counting and any timing infractions. So I'll show you how to do that here when Dotun is back on.
Hey, Mark, it's Harriet. I have a question for you. I already participated in a contest this week, and it went quite well. My question was regarding the judges giving their ballots to the ballot counter. We took photos and exchanged them that way. Is there another option to do it? So the way we did it is the judges would send the ballots to us through text, and then that's how we did it. Is there another option that can be done other than that?
Good question, Harriet. So the contest that I attended, they also tried to send the messages via text using photos of the ballots. And what happened in some cases is the photos didn't go through for whatever reason. The text just failed, or it was too large of a photo to send. So what I would suggest is having a backup method. So if you want to use text as your primary method, that's fine. But in case that doesn't go through, have the judge be able to send a message to the particular judge or ballot counter whose ballot they haven't received, and then use their backup method. If that's email, a WhatsApp group, or a Signal group, there's a bunch of different chat options that you can use that actually show whether a message is delivered. I actually recommend, if everybody does have one of those chat groups like WhatsApp, to create a group for the judges, ballot counters, and timers, and they can all send their messages within that privately from the Zoom meeting. We don't recommend that you use the Zoom chat, because there is some debate as to whether or not the Zoom chat is completely private, or whether someone can copy the file and get the direct message Zoom chats. I don't think they do, but we're not sure about it. So they don't recommend that you use the Zoom chat to pass the ballots, but try to have two methods. Like with everything else in a virtual meeting, have a backup. So if you're going to use text message, have that as your primary form of communication for ballots, and then use WhatsApp or Signal or email as a backup, just to make sure that the ballots get through. Does that answer your question, Harriet?
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. Fortunately, it went well, but it's good to know about that backup option. So thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question?
How are you able to rename people today? Like, I don't know, that's just because you're a co-host and you have access to that?
Yes. So as a co-host, you can click on, and we'll show you that too once Dotun's back. You click on the list of participants, and on each person's name, there is an option to rename them. So that's something that Zoom masters need to have, absolutely, because there's always going to be situations where someone's not able to rename themselves due to issues with the technology. So the Zoom master may have to step in and rename people. And you're right, that is a function that you have once you are named as a co-host in a meeting.
Once the contest chair has, or Toastmaster has chosen, or once speaking order has been selected, would you advise us to list, like, Mark, instead of 03 today, it would be speaker 1, Mark, speaker 2, Glenn, speaker 3, Dan, so that the host or the Zoom master can have some idea of who's who?
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually. I hadn't thought of that before, but yeah, why not put the speaking order numbers before the names? And that makes it easier for everyone to keep track. Then the contest chair or the Toastmaster knows who they're calling on next. The Zoom master knows whose video and audio to enable. I think that's a really good idea. I'm gonna put that into my notes. Thank you.
Okay.
And I have a question here from Tina. Yes, that is, and I think we were talking about renaming people, and yes, the Zoom master's job is to help people rename themselves as they come into the meeting. So if they're a contestant following Danny's suggestion, give them the speaking order number before their name. If they're a timer, give them timer number 1, timer number 2, ballot counter, that sort of thing. So definitely, you want to help people with renaming themselves, either just instructing them how to do it, or if they can't get it, then rename them for them. And yes, a co-host can also be a timer. I would actually, so during a meeting, I would give co-hosting abilities to anyone that's going to be participating, like putting a virtual backdrop in. It just makes sure that there's no settings that's going to prevent them from doing that. So the timer needs to use virtual backgrounds. And if you make them a co-host, they'll have no issues with doing that and making sure that their video is on so that they can be visible to the speaker. So I would give them co-hosting abilities.
Are you going to cover what are the breakout rooms Zoom Master has to create?
Yes, I will have Dotun show you how to create a breakout room, and then how to, it's actually very easy once you have that feature enabled to assign people to breakout rooms. And so anytime during the meeting, you can assign all the judges, the ballot counters and timers to a breakout room. And then once it's time at the end of the speaking or the speech contest, you can then send them all to the breakout room immediately. We'll actually demonstrate that during our mock contest after this session is done. But I'll have Dotun show you the steps to do it as well. The next thing I wanted to show them is, can you bring up the breakout rooms and show them how to create a breakout room and
Okay.
and assign members to the breakout rooms?
Next thing we want to do is to do a demonstration of how you can enable breakout rooms in Zoom. How you can enable breakout rooms in Zoom. So what you want to do is to access the breakout rooms feature, which is what you see here. Sometimes you may not see this. It may be under more, and when you click that, it comes up. Something for you to just take note of. So you click on the breakout room button, this then comes up. You manually assign people. So let's say we need 3 rooms, 3 breakout rooms, one for the contest chair, another one for the chief judge and the spare room for any other thing that you may need that for during the contest. So you click on that and you change the number of breakout rooms to 3. So now you have 3 breakout rooms. When you mouse over each of the default room names, it gives you the option to rename, and you click on rename, say breakout, say judges or ballot room. Let's just call it ballot room. Or you can call it chief judge. Then second one, contest chair briefing, contest chair. And you can have a third one just to say contest backstage. Backstage. So now you've renamed those breakout rooms into that. Then the next thing you want to do is to make sure that your options are properly set. You don't want to give participants the option to choose a room in this case. You, as the Zoom master, should be able to control that. Allow participants to return to the main session at any time, yes. Automatically move all assigned participants into the breakout rooms. Yes, you want to do that. And you give them the 60-second countdown timer when you close all rooms. So we are good to go. And the next thing you want to do is when you're about to open the breakout rooms that you assign the participants into that. So what I would do for the purpose of this demonstration is I would log on with my phone so that we have an extra attendee to play with. So now I've connected with my phone, and you see I renamed myself before joining the meeting to roleplay what we're trying to do here. Judge 1. Judge 1 is here, so let's admit Judge 1 into the room. So Judge 1 has been admitted into the room, and with that we can then assign Judge 1 into that breakout room. And when it's time for you to move all the judges, the voting judges and the chief judge into the breakout room, what you want to do is click on open all rooms. So now you can see Judge 1 is connected with the green light that is showing. That's what that means. And when they are done, you can either move the judges back into the main session. If you want to continue using the breakout rooms for other things, you just move them into the main session. Otherwise, you close all rooms. You can also send a broadcast message to all rooms to say 5 minutes warning. And you broadcast that, and it goes. They will see it will come at the very top of the screen. So that's the demonstration on how to set up your breakout rooms and how to rename it, how to then assign participants into each of the breakout rooms, modifying the options, and then opening the rooms, which moves them into the room either automatically or them choosing to say, yes, I want to join. When you're done, you can then close all rooms, or if you still have need for the other rooms, you can move the participants into the main session. And if I do this, move Judge 1 back into the main session, something will appear on their screen that says join or not now. They click on join and they are moved into the main area. So that's what this is about, the demonstration of breakout rooms. Hope you find it useful. So that's the beauty of using the prefix. It lines it up nicely for you, and you just go through each breakout room, assign people, and then when it's that time, so when you assign, you do not open the rooms immediately. Otherwise, if you do that in the middle of a session, it moves everyone. You want to wait till the time when it's the allotted time for you to move people into the breakout rooms, and then you open all the rooms and then people go into the breakout rooms. And for those who are joined, what you will see is that they will appear, the green lighting will appear before their name. As all these people appearing in green shows that they are connected to the contest chair breakout room. And then the same thing for the other breakout room. And for you as a Zoom master, if you click on join, you can go directly to that breakout room to see what's going on if they need your help. For these other people that are not joined, it's because we are using the main area for this session. If we are trying to do this session for the Zoom masters in a breakout room, we will not be able to show you all these features that we are demonstrating right now. So that's why we have to keep you in the main area for us to be able to show those Zoom meeting panels.
If I might, Dotun, there is a question here about moving people to breakout rooms. Yes, that option isn't showing right now because we already have the breakout rooms active. But when you first initiate it, there is a settings button right here in the corner of the breakout room window, and you can check a box that says automatically assign people to breakout rooms once you open them. So then it doesn't wait for people. I don't believe it waits for them to move. Does it, Dotun, or do they still get a pop-up that says, I need to go to the breakout room?
So if you do not click on the option that says automatically move them, when you open the rooms, then it will give you that pop-up to say join breakout room. Or if you've checked while setting up the rooms, if you've checked on the options button and choose the one that says automatically move participants when breakout rooms are open, then when you activate open all rooms, it will move them automatically.
Now for today's session, you have organized 1, 2, 3 like that. So are you guys moving based on prefix manually or automatically?
We created those prefix manually.
Okay.
And then once you've assigned those, once those letters or numbers are in front of your name, I am going through, myself and Dotun, we're going and assigning you to the rooms manually. That's correct. But once we open the breakout rooms, everyone was automatically moved into the rooms.
Yeah.
I was just in regards to what you said about sharing screen. So if you have the stuff open that you wanted to share and the host gives you the option to share your screen, can't you not then, will it not show up when you go share screen?
When I share screen, I mean, I can share any of my windows or my desktop,
Mm-hmm.
but it won't. So those buttons there that say security or participants or chat share screen, those disappear on my share screen for some reason.
Oh, okay.
And it's, I just assumed Zoom did that because they figured nobody wanted to see those buttons. It's kind of a unique situation, I guess, where you're showing someone how to use a feature in Zoom and see Zoom while you're sharing your screen. we had a question about timer 1 and timer 2. So what I would say about the 2 timers, it's the same as a traditional timer role in a meeting, but you want to have both timers visible in the meeting. And the idea is if timer 1 goes down, timer 2 will be available to continue timing. Both timers should be timing throughout. Timer 1 would be the only one showing the slides, but if timer 2 notices timer 1 has gone out, then they would show the colored backdrops at the appropriate times. Now,
Mark, I just shared a little fillable PDF I just created that if we had the judges, if the judges all had these and they worked from the full ballot when they're doing their judging, but then filled in this, just the bottom portion and then emailed it to the chief judge, do you think that's workable?
I think so. What do you think, Dotun? I agree with you, because otherwise then people have to crop the photo or just take a photo of the bottom of the ballot. But if you've got a cropped version already, I don't see why that would be an issue.
Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. Otherwise, the other thing I also see that worked very well, and this was at international semifinals, was wherever you came up with at the bottom of the ballot thing, you just typed it in an email and sent it to, so there's like a distribution list that add the chief judge and the ballot counters to it. So every of the voting judges just submitted as if normal email. This is normal first person, second person as the third position, and they sent it all in, and we collated that in the back room. I think that's an easy way to go. Otherwise, you can just take a picture of the bottom on your phone and also send that via email.
And I agree with you, Wes. Yes, both timers should keep their video on in case one of the connections gets dropped. And that's why you want to have both timers timing at the same time. Now, my suggestion was to only have the timer number 1 using their backdrops unless they drop off, but maybe it makes sense to have both timers using the backdrops throughout, just so there, in case one does disappear, you've always got one timer on the screen that is still timing and providing the timing backgrounds.
In the case of breakout rooms, we really only need one for contest day, right? Because you're just dropping the judges, ballot counters, and timers all into the same room.
That's correct. And to address another question that was brought up, you can, as the Zoom master, anytime during the contest, you can start assigning the judges and timers and ballot counters to that breakout room. And you don't have to send them there until the contest is actually done. So they'll be pre-assigned to the meeting, and you just click open breakout room, and they'll all be, as long as you check that box that says automatically move them, they'll be moved to the breakout room at that point. Now, as far as pinning the timers, there is a way to pin 2 timers, but my suggestion, the way I like doing it is, instead of having them pin the timers, just have everyone disable their video and then have the speaker hide non-video participants. And then the only people they'll see on the screen are those with their video on, which should only be the 2 timers and the speaker. And if the speaker doesn't want to see themselves, they can hide their self view as well.
Can Dotun show us how to do that?
Yes, so that was going to be my next question. And then to disable non-video participants, I believe it's under the view button in the top right. Hide non-video participants, there it is. So everyone, if you click on that stop video button, but the little arrow next to it, then choose video settings, scroll down, and there is a checkbox for hide non-video participants. If you'd all like to try that, you can hide, and then it will only leave the people that have their video on the screen. Is there any last thing here before we go back to the main session?
Zoom master need to keep video on or off for the entire session? We can keep it off, right?
The Zoom master's audio?
Video.
Oh, video. Yes, you can keep it unless you're doing the opening when you're introducing the contest chair or the Toastmaster. Beyond that, you can keep your video off. Absolutely. And I would suggest that you do. All right. Well, if there are any further questions, I'm going to drop my email here in the chat box. Feel free to shoot me a message, and I will address all your questions as well afterwards.
Now, another thing to consider is, are your backgrounds tied to your Zoom account, or are they tied to the desktop you're on? Because there might be a danger if your timer forgets to log in as their Zoom account, and all of a sudden their backgrounds are gone because they're logged in as a guest.
No, they're
That's a
logged.
good
They're
point.
on your personal device.
It's to your account.
Yeah.
Okay, so they would have to be logged in then to their account.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something to maybe make sure you make a note of in your dry run is, don't accidentally log out or log in as a guest.
Yeah,
I
even
have
though I
two-
wanted, sorry, go ahead.
I have 2 licensed accounts and I use 2 different machines, and I've had to go in on each of them and each device and each account and make sure I have my virtual background set.
Oh, that's good to notice, or good to note, because we had told people to log out of their accounts so they could rename themselves, but we'll have to make sure the timers log into their own accounts so that they have their backdrops available.
Just another comment on timers and switching backgrounds. For ease of switching backgrounds, I would keep the virtual background option window open so you could toggle over the 3 colors as fast as you can instead of having to open the virtual background option every single time.
Yeah, definitely. And try to, it's kind of a big screen. What I generally do is try to move it to the corner of my screen so you can still see what's going on. But absolutely keep your video settings open so you can toggle between the backgrounds.
Especially for those who have a lot of virtual backgrounds loaded up on their account already. It takes a while for your virtual background screen to come up for you to actually have the option. So just keep it up and then you can keep it toggle over the 3 colors.
Yes, and to address Tina's questions, we will have a video of this presentation that will be available on the d99tm.org website. I'll put that in here in the chat here too. And yes, the Zoom Master does need to be renamed. Every participant or every official, I guess, as part of the contest needs to be renamed. And I think that was probably addressed by the chief judge, but yes, that is something that needs to be done beforehand. So the only people that you don't need to rename are the attendees, but everyone who's going to be part of the contest participating actively needs to have themselves renamed in such a way, like Zoom Master or contest chair or chief judge or judge 1, judge 1, judge 2, judge 3. That's something you work with the chief judge and the contest chair to decide on what the naming convention is going to be. And then the Zoom Master can help the contestants or participants rename themselves. All right, I think we're going to take a quick break and then we'll go into the mock contest here in about 6 minutes.